Jurassic World Rebirth, directed by Gareth Edwards, tells the story of a few mercenaries, a pharmaceutical technician, and a guy who's really into dinosaurs, out on a quest to gain some DNA from a band of different types of dinosaurs in order to create medicine that could cure heart disease. But as they travel close to the equator on this island where almost all of the dinosaurs exist now, they find that there's a little bit more abnormal ones here than you'd expect. So when I first heard that this movie was coming out, I heard a lot of mixed reactions. I heard stuff on the spectrum of it was really, really good, and then I heard stuff recently that it was really, really bad. And it was sort of the more resourceful ones that I listen to that tend to say the stuff is really, really bad. But, you know, I went in it with an open mind. There's a lot of good actors in this film, and I thought, you know, it can't be worse than the last Jurassic World movie, at least. And it's definitely not. I would say it's better than Jurassic World Dominion, because I think that movie is probably the worst of the entire franchise. But I gotta say, after sitting on this one for a little bit, it's hard not to dislike it a little bit more as I keep thinking about it. Which is a shame, because there's honestly a lot of good people in this film. One of them being the biggest standout, in my opinion, is Mahershala Ali. Now, all the characters in this film don't get, like, a ton of in-depth sort of stuff, you know. Mahershala Ali as Duncan definitely does get the most out of everybody here, but he does have decent chemistry with a few people, more specifically Johnathan Bailey, who plays Dr. Loomis, and no, that's not a Halloween reference, I think. Maybe it is, I don't know. But regardless, Johnathan Bailey as his character, he does a good enough job. I didn't hate it. You know, I more so didn't like the romantic tension that he has with Scarlett Johansson's character in this. I'm not the biggest Scarlett Johansson fan in the world, to be honest with you. I think she's largely okay in a lot of roles, and this one is no different to me, in my opinion. I think that ScarJo is fine. I think that she can play the badass character well enough, but also I didn't find her mercenary skills to be really put to the test. Almost. That's the problem with this, is like everyone just keeps talking about how they're mercenaries, or at least the few of them that there are, and they never feel like they're mercenaries. They never feel cold-hearted and like, I know what I'm doing and you gotta listen to me. It's like the guy who runs a museum feels like he's running point almost the entire time, which I guess maybe he should in some instances, considering he would know more about these creatures than the rest of them would. But when you're out in the jungle like that, man, I want the guy that knows what he's doing to be leading the pack. And that's the frustrating thing about this, is there is really no main character. It feels like, it just kind of feels like there's two teams that you see that are on this expedition throughout this entire one, and they clash at points, and the movie just kind of ends at some point. And that's the other part when I say there's two sort of casts and members here, because on one hand we have the band of mercenaries here with the doctor, and then we have the pharmaceutical guy that's, basically gathered everybody because of the money here. And then on the other hand, we have this father with his two daughters and one of the daughter's boyfriends here, who end up tagging along with everybody because they travel along this ocean to, it's like their summer thing that they basically do. But it's basically heavily advised by government officials and everybody. They're like, hey, you shouldn't go past this certain extent of the water because that's where all the dinosaurs are at. But they don't listen. And then it's a shock that, oh my God, dinosaurs start to fucking show up. But regardless, that's how they end up teaming up with the other band of scientists and everybody here. It's just like, it felt like two stories clashing together. It never really felt like that they really had a place here. It almost felt like two different stories that were kind of put together, almost like the recent Beetlejuice movie, where you had really two excellent plot points that they could have done, and it kind of felt half-baked for both of them because they kind of just combined it and they didn't really come to a satisfying ending. That's how I felt with this one. The one family has some annoying characters in there that I really, really didn't like, and some really annoying choices and corporate choices, it felt like, specifically involving one of the little sisters and a pet dinosaur at one point. And the tension in this film really isn't there a lot of the time. There's a couple moments in here where there's some fun sort of things happening. You get the boat scene that they show in the trailer, the two boat scenes where one's on the raft where they're being chased by a T-Rex, and then the other one where they're chased by like those whale type dinosaurs. Those are two really fun, intense scenes, but the other ones, they weren't really so great. And how they really even jumpstart the story to begin with is also kind of dumb. The beginning of the film tells how there's a laboratory that where this island is at was used to crossbreed different dinosaurs to make like genetically altered looking sort of creatures. And the way that they kind of get to how the story kind of shows what happens to this lab is dumb. It's one of the dumbest things in the world. I was flabbergasted as to like how comical that was. And it's more comical because it's so ridiculous and stupid, not because it's funny. Much like the rest of this movie, where it's not really funny at points, and I'm laughing at the like stuff that just seems so like, oh, of course that would happen. Like realistically, like that wouldn't happen, but like because it's a movie, it has to happen that way. For example, and this is a slight spoiler, it's not really giving away much of the movie, but unless you want to go completely blind, skip this tiny portion here. There is scenes where they have to extract DNA from the dinosaurs, so the dart that they use, that they shoot from, you know, the extraction that they have, has a timer, and it shoots off the bottle into the air with a parachute, and it'll land like nearby them. But there are multiple times in this where it does that, and it's done to a comical like, oh, of course it would land there, or of course it would somehow get to there, even though realistically, based on the elements and where you are and what happens to characters in the situation, just realistically wouldn't happen. And there's a lot of those nitpicky things, and it sucks because it's a movie about dinosaurs eating people, so like, why would one person nitpick the hell out of a movie in order to, you know, say like, oh, it's not realistic and it's not fun? It's like, dude, it's about dinosaurs. And I get that, and I can appreciate people telling me that, but you gotta have the slightest bit of realism in some of your movies in order to make them work. For example, the first Jurassic Park movie ever made with Steven Spielberg, there is a lot of dumb shit in there with dinosaurs eating people, yes, but it is grounded well enough, and there's characters and actual arcs that happen in that movie that create a holistic story, and it's one of the greatest movies ever created. With this, it doesn't really feel like that. It feels like a lot of ideas aren't really fully developed. There are some really good scenes though here. There are some really tense moments with a couple dinosaurs. The creations and the designs of some of the dinosaurs are really, really fun. There's a couple action set pieces, like I said, with the raft scene and then the boat scene, and then a couple other scenes sprinkled here and there are kind of fun and tense, but that's the problem also too, is it's a 2-hour plus runtime, and you only get moments in a film like this, when in reality there should be a ton of sequences that should be memorable, like the first Jurassic Park or the second Jurassic Park, or hell, even the most recent Jurassic Worlds don't really have the greatest sort of stuff in it, but with the first Jurassic World, I definitely remember the scene where the park kind of goes to hell, you know, and like there's a really awesome scene where like the nanny gets chomped in the sky by one of the pterodactyls. Like there's some moments in some of these films that should be memorable, and unfortunately for Jurassic World Rebirth, I don't necessarily know if I'm going to have that. This movie had a lot going for it. I thought that the director was a good choice. I thought a lot of the actors in this were definitely a good choice. It just comes down to story and its execution, and I just don't think that it was the best executed movie that it could have been. I will give it the same rating I was kind of thinking of this entire time here, even though I think it might be skewed as a little bit more negative on this review than it may be, but I can't deny that some of the stuff that I had fun with, I did have fun with, and, you know, there are things that are problems with this movie, and maybe if I rewatched it and maybe on a different day, I might think this is a worser movie than it is, but for now, I'm going to stick with the rating that I would have had, you know, pre sort of researching all this other stuff. I'm going to give Jurassic World Rebirth 3 stars. Thank you guys so much for watching. Look forward to more reviews very soon. You can check down below for all the socials that we have for various platforms, where we have my Twitter, where we have TikTok, and where we have Letterboxd, where I'm going to be reviewing movies on all 3 platforms, or just spewing my dumb ideas on Twitter because I got nothing better to do. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Keep those cinemas alive, and I will talk to you all next time.